Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone. We'll give you one guess. You can put it in the comments where we might be. And no, this isn't a superimposed image.
No.
You might be thinking, hey, is that like a green screen somehow?
I know.
But no, look, watch this. It's not. This is what Bhava Bhakti says. No, this is the real deal right behind us.
Yes.
From our room in the Gita Bhavan.
Our balcony view. This is a view we have outside our balcony.
And so, yeah, very beautiful place. You can see on this side the sun is just coming up. Well, it's been up for a little while. But it's almost 7. So we're going to do a quick reading and then go for deity reading. So, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Where are we reading from?
It's Canto 3, Chapter 32, Text 34
through 36.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Gi 34 to 36. By performing fruitive activities and sacrifices, by distributing charity, by performing austerities, by studying various literatures, by conducting philosophical research, by controlling the mind, by subduing the senses, by accepting the renounced order of life, and by performing the prescribed duties of one's social order, by performing the different divisions of yoga practice, by performing devotional service, and by exhibiting the process of devotional service containing the symptoms of both attachment and detachment, by understanding the science of self-realization, and by developing a strong sense of detachment, one who is expert in understanding the different processes of self-realization realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he is represented in the material world as well as in transcendence. Purport. Quite a long purport actually. As it is stated in a previous verse, one has to follow the principles of the scriptures. There are different prescribed duties for persons in the different social and spiritual orders. Here it is stated that performance of fruitive activities and sacrifices and distribution of charity are activities meant for persons who are in the household order of society. There are 4 orders of the social system: Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyas. For the Grihasthas or householders, performance of sacrifices, distribution of charity and action according to prescribed duties are especially recommended. Similarly, austerity, study of Vedic literature and philosophical research are meant for the Vanaprastha or retired persons. Study of the Vedic literature from the bona fide spiritual master is meant for the brahmachari or student. At Mendriya Jaya, control of the mind and taming of the senses is meant for persons in renounced order of life. All these different activities are prescribed for different persons so that they may be elevated to the platform of self-realization and from there to Krishna consciousness, devotional service. It's interesting, isn't it? At the end it says, at the end of this paragraph, that these different activities are specific to different ashrams and varnas and ashrams, no?
Just ashrams.
Ashrams, and then, so it's not one for all, but then it says that elevates them to the platform of self-realization, and from there they can take to Krishna consciousness. Whereas we find Prabhupada has just given us, like we were saying previously, the elevator to Krishna consciousness, you know. Really, we don't have to do all this other stuff.
Yeah, I think it's very valuable and important. Of course, everyone should perform devotional service. At the same time, we can see that the Varnashram system has unique activities for each ashram. So it's not, although everyone is equal on the spiritual platform, and not to say people aren't equal, but everyone doesn't have to do the same thing. Different ashrams and also different varnas, although that's not discussed here, it may be discussed further down, but different ashrams have different functions and activities and things that they would perform in order to elevate themselves in a correct manner. So, like when we were just reading through that, brahmacharis were studying, grihastas were giving in charity, more or less. The vanaprasthas were leading an austere life, and then the renunciants, the sannyasis, they're meant for tapasya, real tapasya. And so it's not that one size fits all. Just wanted to see what it's vanaprastha, or retired person studying the Vedic literature. Control of the senses, mind, and taming the senses is meant for persons in the renounced order. Now, in one sense, you could say, doesn't that mean that all need to tame the senses? Well, yes, but you can see that there's a stage at which one is maybe not so easily inclined to tame the senses, so they should be tamed in a certain way. But as one progresses, then one should pull the senses more and more under control. I just think that gradual principle is very important, potent, and maybe not always expressed or preached or taught, that there's a unique and individual phase of life. And that's the thing that's always impressed me and inspired me in Vedic culture, is that it's a gradual process. It's understood that it's gradual and there's no rush, but often we feel like, no, you have to do this, everyone has to do that, everyone has to be like a brahmachari, or everyone has to be like a sannyasi. But no, there's different activities for the different ashrams. The words Bhakti Yogena Chaiva Hi mean that whatever is to be performed as described in verse 34, whether yoga or sacrifice or fruitive activity or study of Vedic literature or philosophical research or acceptance of the renounced order of life, is to be executed in Bhakti Yoga. The words Chaiva Hi, according to Sanskrit grammar, indicate that one must perform all these activities mixed with devotional service. Otherwise, such activities will not produce any fruit. Any prescribed activity must be performed for the sake of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9:27, Yak karoshi yadashnashi. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you sacrifice, whatever austerities you undergo, and whatever charities you give, the results should be given to the Supreme Lord. The word eva is added, indicating that one must execute activities in such a way. Unless one adds devotional service to all activities, he cannot achieve the desired results. But when Bhakti Yoga is prominent in every activity, then the ultimate goal is sure. So you may receive the results of some goals or some of your endeavors and aspirations, but if you haven't included Krishna, if you haven't tried to incorporate the principles of bhakti, you won't receive the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to serve Krishna, to learn to love Krishna. As we were discussing recently, what's most dear to Krishna is service of his devotees and caring for his devotees, like that.
Next paragraph. One has to approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, as it is stated in Bhagavad Gita. After many, many births, one approaches the Supreme Person Krishna and surrenders unto him, knowing that he is everything. Also in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Bhaktaram Nyagya-tapasam. For anyone who is undergoing rigid austerity, or for anyone performing different kinds of sacrifices, the beneficiary I lost my words there. The beneficiary is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the proprietor of all planets, and he is a friend of every living soul. So one has to approach Krishna.
Okay. The words Dharminobhaya Chinena mean that the Bhakti Yoga process contains two symptoms, namely attachment for the Supreme Lord and detachment from all material affinities. There are two symptoms of advancement in the process of devotional service, just as there are two processes taking place while eating. A hungry man feels strength and satisfaction from eating, and at the same time he gradually becomes detached from eating anymore. That's a nice example. Similarly, when the execution of devotional service, real knowledge develops and one becomes detached from all material activities. And no other activity but devotional services are such detachment from matter and attachment for the Supreme. There are 9 different processes to increase this attachment to the Supreme Lord: hearing, chanting, remembering, worshiping, serving the Lord, making friendship, praying, offering everything, and serving the lotus feet of the Lord. The process for increasing detachment from material affinities are explained in verse 36. So, I really like this example. A hungry man feels strength and satisfaction, and at the same time, he becomes detached from eating anymore. Even if you're a big foodie, then it means that there comes a point where eventually you're like, I'm detached. Now you're detached because you're so stuffed that you can't put any more food in your belly. Doesn't mean that you still don't want to. So I guess ultimate detachment means that we come to a point where we're not really so interested in stuffing our face and filling ourselves so much that we're like that. But so in the same way, using that analogy, that yes, we may become detached by using a thorn to remove a thorn, but ultimately we should become detached knowing that I just don't have an interest in this anymore. So, but it's a great analogy. I like it.
Next paragraph. One can achieve elevation to the higher planetary systems like the heavenly kingdom by executing one's prescribed duties and by performing sacrifices. When one is transcendental to such desires because of accepting the renounced order of life, he can understand the Brahman feature of the Supreme. And when one is able to see his real constitutional position, he sees all other processes and becomes situated in the stage of pure devotional service. At that time, he can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. Okay.
Is that it?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so this seems to be talking about going, to the heavenly spheres and, like that. Okay. Understanding of the Supreme Person is called Atma Tattva Avabodhena, which means understanding of one's real constitutional position. If one actually understands one's constitutional position as an eternal servitor of the Supreme Lord, he becomes detached from the service of the material world. Again, that detachment from Krishna. Our process is not so much about giving up, it's about embracing. We embrace Krishna, and naturally we don't want to embrace the material energy anymore. Everyone engages in some sort of service. If one does not know one's constitutional position, one engages in the service of his personal gross body or his family, society, or country. But as soon as one is able to see his constitutional position, the words swadrik means one who is able to see, he becomes detached from such material service and engages himself in devotional service. So, yeah, understanding one's real position, then I'm the eternal servant of Krishna, Jiva Puri Krishna Nityadas. Either way, we are, because we're naturally servants, we engage in service. So everyone is doing some service in life, no matter if whatever that service is. You're serving your body, you're serving your senses, you're serving your husband or wife, you're serving your children, you're serving your dog, you're serving the boss, you're serving something. Everyone is performing some service, which is quite, for most, a revolutionary realization. Oh yeah, I am naturally just doing that anyway. So we're either doing it for the cause of sense enjoyment and the material energy, or we're trying to do it for Krishna. Okay. Last paragraph.
As long as one is in the mode's material nature and is performing the duties prescribed in the scriptures, he can be elevated to higher planetary systems where the predominating deities are material representations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like the Sun God, the Moon God, the Air God, Brahma, and Lord Shiva. All their different demigods are material representations of the Supreme Lord. By material activities, one can approach only such demigods as stated in Bhagavad Gita, Yanti Deva Vrata Devan. Those who are attached to the demigods and who perform the prescribed duties can approach the abodes of the demigods. In this way, one can go to the planet of the Pitas or forefathers. Similarly, one who fully understands the real position of his life, adopts devotional service, and realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So as long as you're in the modes of material nature, but at the same time performing the duties in the scriptures, you can be elevated to higher planets. But you just can't go back to the spiritual world. But you can, without being liberated from the material modes, you can go higher, because the various demigods and that represent certain modes and certain moods. Does that make sense?
Yeah, in one sense it's kind of like climbing the ladder.
Yes.
As opposed to taking the elevator. So
right.
We climb the ladder by different types of practice that help us first control the mind, control the senses, avoid this, avoid that, like that, worship of the demigods. So we become elevated. So in one sense you could say you're making progress, material progress, and theoretically from the platform of the devatas or those places you can go back to Godhead, although my understanding is that especially in Kali Yuga, being here on the earthly plane, it's the best possible situation, especially once Lord Chaitanya has come, which is now, we see, that one can more easily make advancement back to the spiritual world.
Yes, yes.
Because here we have, in the heavenly spheres, it's so blissfully opulent and so much enjoyment is there that we forget that we want to go anywhere else. In the hellish world, the suffering is so intense that we just want some simple relief, and we can't really be conscious of the the spiritual world either. It's only here in the earthly sphere where you have this combination of heavenly enjoyment and hellish experience, which gives us enough of a jolt, I guess you could say, that we want to get out, and we see that there is a way and a process for getting out. So we can take to it more easily. Something like that.
Okay.
All right, so we'll stop there, and that was a long purport, and we read for longer than we were going to. Well, not really, but
Not really. I want to say before we go, because we met one of our viewers here. So shout out to
Shivraj.
Shivraj Prabhu. We met him here. We're at the ISKCON Leadership Sangha and he's doing nice service here. So thank you for watching, Shivraj Prabhu.
Yeah, hopefully if you see this, Shivraj, please put a comment down there and let us know that you were watching.
Yeah.
Because you were asking, are you going to be doing any readings while we're here in Mayapur? And so we are.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for your wonderful service to the ISKCON Leadership Sangha. And stay tuned and Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Entourage Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.